Welcome to It's Okay to Be a Genius series, Study Smart, Study Less. Well, our main focus today is on how to improve grades. I have realized that a lot of students and pupils study very hard. Unfortunately, their grades are very poor. The reason why you are getting poor grades may be that you are not taking the right approach towards getting good grades. Well, getting good grades or getting A+ in all courses is not all about studying hard. There are certain tips which you are supposed to follow if you want to maintain your good grades or you want to improve your grades from C to A+. Well, I'm going to give you 10 tips in which you can improve your grades. The first tip is don't miss classes. Well, this sounds obvious, right? But it's very important. Take 10 seconds to think about the best student in your class. You realize that this student never misses classes. Even if he or she does, they always ensure that they found out what you learned in class, if there were any assignments, and also take time to copy the notes which you jotted down in class. And for them to miss classes, they always have a serious reason which they cannot avoid. Now, for C+ students, you find that most cases they always find any reason which they can give in order for them to miss class. Well, if you want to improve your grades, the first tip is never miss classes. Even if you don't like the lecture or the course, make sure that you always attend his or her class. It begins from there. The second tip is take better lecture notes. Well, if you want to improve your grades, you have to ensure that you are studying better notes. How do you do this? You have to make your own lecture notes. If you make your own lecture notes, you understand them better because you are the one who wrote those notes. And how do you do this? You can write better lecture notes by first attending classes. After attending classes, while you are in class, make sure that you write better lecture notes as the lecture is explaining. Dot down important tips. After that, you can also expand your understanding by watching YouTube tutorials, also by consulting to your friends and reading various textbooks. In that way, you find that you have a better understanding of the notes, and you write notes which you understand easily, and when you are revising, it will be very easier for you. And like you just studying the textbooks or reading lectures which have been given to you by your lecture, this will be very difficult for you. But if you take your own lecture notes, it will be very easy for you to improve your grades because you'll be reading something which you wrote down by yourself. Which brings us to tip number 3. Well, the third tip is don't hesitate to ask for help. If you want to seriously improve your grades, if you want to move from C+ to A+, don't hesitate to ask for help. If you don't understand a certain topic well, don't hesitate to ask for help from your lecturer, your instructor, or your friends. There are always people who know better about that. One of the things which are putting you down or which have made you to be a C+ student is maybe you have an ego. You don't want to ask for help. You are always pretending that you know them all. It's a good thing to always ask when you don't know something. Be curious to know things. Ask. You can always ask your friends. There is always that friend who can better explain things, maybe even better than your instructor does. You can pay a tutor to explain things for you, or you can easily go on YouTube and search for tutorials. Let's take, maybe if you are an engineering student, you can go for Auntie Jenny's lecture. She's an Indian. I always take advantage of her, and her tutorials are for free on YouTube. And in that process, you get to learn things maybe which you have not even learned in class, and it becomes very easy for you to tackle questions better in an exam, and in that way you easily improve your grades. Tip number 4, organize your study time. Well, one of the things which are very limited in a university or college is study time, because there is no timetable. Well, everyone expects you to behave according to the time and to respond according to time changes. So you have to make sure that your time is well organized. Know which time you have to study. Know where you have to study best. Know where you understand. Okay? Let's say, for example, with me, in a noise place, I do solve mathematics problems or do some programming problems, and that's how I organize my study time. And in a quiet place where I'm able to concentrate, I do courses which involve maybe learning, like biology, courses which involve mastering. And in this case, you find that you are organizing your time in a way which will help you get an A+. And like just studying anyhow, you find that you put a lot of effort. Actually, you are misapplying that effort. Well, tip number 6 is set goals. Well, if you are just studying without objectives, this will be very difficult for you to get an A+. A+ students always set goals before starting to study. Just at the first semester, they will set goals, and they will break those goals into simpler tasks which they can accomplish at a day. So let's say if today you want to study, let's say, programming, C++, or you want to study physics, or if you are studying, let's say, C++, you set goals. What do you want to what do you want to know at the end of the day? And for how long? Let's say I'll sit at this desk for 3 hours, and at the end of these 3 hours, I must know maybe if-else statements. Okay, I must be able to do this and apply them. If it's mathematics, maybe I'll be able to study functions, and I must be able to solve any question on functions. If you are able to set goals like this, it will be very easy for you to get an A+. Well, tip number 6, organize your study materials. This is also very important if you want to get an A+. Well, it will be very difficult for you to get an A+ if your study materials are very disorganized. Before you start to study, write down what you need when studying. If you need the calculator, if you need Wi-Fi, if you need network, you need the PC, you need the phone, you need this book. Make sure that everything is set so that once you start studying, it will be very easier for you to concentrate. What you need is always there. And in this case, it will be very easier for you to get an A+. Unlike you just study for 2 minutes, you remember you need the calculator. You go, you take a break, you come back, you just study for this long, you know your Wi-Fi is disconnected. You go to connect. This will bring disturbances which will make you remain a C+ student. But if your materials are well organized, it will be easier for you to get an A+. Tip number 7, use Feynman's technique. Well, Feynman is a well-known scientist, and this is a technique which he used. Feynman is an ordinary person who studied hard and became a genius. Okay, so tip number 7 is use Feynman technique. What does Feynman technique state? It states that if you study something and you are not able to explain it in your own words and on instructions, then you have not fully understood. So if you study something, try to explain that to your friend or to yourself without referring to the notes and without using the exact words which are in the notes. And if you are able to do that, you know that you have understood that it will be very easier for you to apply that knowledge in the test, and this will make it easier for you to get an A+. Tip number 8 this is very important. Try to predict test questions. Don't just study anyhow, okay? Try to mastermind the mindset of your lecturer. See which questions he can bring. Try to scan the whole notes and try to ask yourself questions from those notes, and try to provide solutions to the questions which you have set from those notes, which your lecturer emphasizes on, and which you see that the lecturer is likely to bring in the exam. You can also do this by going back through the past papers, and you see which questions the lecturer likes. And in this way, you know if you are studying the important things and how to tackle test questions. And also give yourself, if the exam paper consists of only, the duration is only 3 hours, also try to attempt those questions in 3 hours, and this will be very easier for you when writing the final exams to get an A+. Tip number 9, this is also very important but also obvious. If neglected, you might never get an A+. Is stay motivated. This is also very important for you to get an A+. This is where discipline comes in. Okay? To stay motivated is you always have to attend classes, take better lecture notes, do what a student is supposed to do. And I'll tell you 5 questions which I always ask myself in order for me to stay motivated. The first question which I always ask myself and to stay in the right track at the university is, first question is, who am I? Who am I? The second question is, where am I? The third question is, why am I here? The fourth question which I always ask myself is, where am I going? And the fifth question which I always ask myself is, what things do I need to keep doing or stop doing for me to keep going where I want to go and to be where I need to be? If you find answers to these questions, you find that you'll be able to control yourself and behave the way you are supposed to behave and be where you are supposed to be at the right time. Well, which brings us to the last tip, which is tip number 10. Well, this is very obvious but also very important. Tip number 10, my friend, study. 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 Okay? This is now where the discipline of sitting down, shutting down friends, putting your phone away, and doing what you followed to school to do, studying. If you adhere to all these tips which I have given you and study, you find that getting an A+ at the end of the day will be very easy for you. Well, it's okay to be a genius. Study smart, study less. Thank you.